back, everybody. Gerald Hines began his company as a one-man operation in 1957. It grew into one of the largest real estate development firms in the world. His buildings define the Houston skyline, and they can be found in many other cities as well. In this edition of Houston 411, please welcome the founder and chairman of Hines Interest, Gerald Hines, and the CEO of Hines Southwest Region, Mark Cover. Hello, gentlemen. We're going to get to some of those Houston landmarks in a minute, but your story is such that American entrepreneur and such a story of Americana, really, of how this country was built. Grew up early on in Gary, Indiana?
That's right.
And your father?
My father was an electrical superintendent in the U.S. steel mill.
And you were one of those kids, though, that just had a knack for curiosity, for math, for engineering.
My father told me engineers didn't get laid off during the Depression. And so I went to Purdue University and then off to the wars as a young lieutenant in World War II. Came back and finished my engineering. Was given a choice of Baltimore, Indianapolis, or Houston. And I had 4 fraternity brothers in Houston. I said, I'm going to Houston, Texas.
Good decision. And Houston was such a different landscape back then. Give us an idea of what was going on here in Houston at that time.
Well, when I arrived in Houston, for the first 2 months, I went to the YMCA with my fraternity brothers. And then we got an apartment out on Childress. But my first office was in the M&M building. We had no air conditioning.
Ooh, in Houston?
It was an attic fan, and that was the cooling. But I was in the mechanical engineering of buildings for air conditioning, all the other items that went into a building to design it and for environmental health.
When you started your company, you had no employee issues because you were the only employee, weren't you?
Well, I later started my own company, but that was later, and finally went out on my own in 1957. And but I'd been building buildings with my partner before that, 4 years before that.
Yeah. And Mark, the cool thing about this is that it's like this kind of living legend, if you will, because we do drive around town and we see buildings, but we don't really understand how they came to be.
That's right. When I came here in 1982, much of the skyline that we see today was up. I had no idea who was behind it, but now I get to sit next to him today.
Yeah.
And it's pretty special.
One of the things that you're credited with, and we were talking about that before the break, is, let me fix my mouth to say it, the Galleria. And there were several things about the Galleria that it was a new concept.
It was a new concept. No one had ever thought about putting an ice skating rink in a shopping center. But I wanted to build 3, 4 levels of retail. But I didn't have the financing to build but 3. And I wanted to make sure that that lower level, which normally leased at about 25 to 30% of your ground floor, to have enough traffic to get good rentals. So I said, why not an ice skating rink? Everybody said, no one ever put an ice skating rink in a shopping center. I did see one in Seattle, but it was housed completely separate, and because they wanted to save the energy. Well, I calculated the energy that it would take, and I think it was like 10 cents a square foot on that lower level. And we got double that. We got up to $3 more. So it made a lot of sense.
Yeah, well, it's a little glimpse into what goes into, I think, obviously, you build the building and it's all about the brick and mortar part, but there's a lot of psychology and planning that goes into this, having that ice skating rink so that you would have other people who wanted to be around there. Also convincing someone to be your anchor store, and of course, there at the Galleria, you had to convince Neiman Marcus to come.
Well, I gave him the land, well, so why not?
I would come too. Excuse me. Some other buildings that we see, we're looking at right here in the Williams Tower, which has a designation of being the largest or the tallest
building
outside of downtown.
outside of a downtown.
This is an incredible building. Give us some idea of what it took to get this thing put together.
Well, it's a 64-story building, and our tenant was Transco, and they needed to be in quickly.
Yeah, which used to be called Transco Tower, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we did an open cut, and we had our tenant in 16 months. No other building had ever done that of that height, but it was because it was not downtown where you have to go use soldier piles to build it.
Yeah, and of course we know that wonderful water wall, which I know there's the thousands of wedding pictures, Easter pictures, all kinds of things out by that water wall, which you created kind of that tranquil space as well. And there it is, a picture of that right there. Other buildings, you have the Pennzoil Place, or the twin trapezoidal towers right there.
Right.
Texas Commerce, now the Chase building, and of course Bank of America. Okay, so the question comes, where is Houston landscape going from here?
Mark, why don't you answer that, since you're in charge of that now.
I think Houston has an amazingly bright future. People continue to vote with their feet, and they come here. And they keep coming here because it's a place of opportunity. It's a place where, like Jerry years ago, like me years later, and like many people today, nobody really cares who your daddy was. Just come and get in there, and you can have a wonderful life here.
Yeah, Houston is such a great city in that way. I mean, often I've had these conversations with my friends in Dallas and New York and the whole bit, and they go, well, why is Houston different? And I said, well, you know, in some other cities, though, you could say, I won $1 billion last night. And they go, oh, I'm sorry, what's the last name again?
Yeah.
Right? And here you could say, I won $2 on the scratch-off. That's fantastic! Right.
Houston's a very encouraging city.
Yeah. All right. Well, the Hines organization sponsors an annual urban design challenge for graduate students. They had to redevelop one of Houston's downtown buildings. We'll see their ideas after the break and how Mr. Hines is paying it forward. Welcome back. So here's the challenge. As part of the downsizing at the U.S. Post Office, the downtown location will be closing. Several students were given the assignment to redevelop the land. The prize for the best design, $50,000. 139 teams from universities across the country participated, and we have the last four standing. And Ann Taylor from the Urban Land Institute is also with us. Hi there.
Hi, Deborah.
All right, we're going to see your designs in a second, but before we do that, this is like such a comprehensive project that needs to take place. It's not just a matter of saying, hey, I think it should be a shopping mall. You have to really research the area you're in, the purpose, all that type of stuff. Take us through that process.
That's right. Well, one of the things that ULI really stresses is building better communities. So this competition is not just about the prettiest design. It's about really understanding what's going to make a great community, a great place for people for generations to come.
Yeah, and give that building life and usefulness.
Absolutely, absolutely. So these students did an incredible amount of research in a very short time frame to come up with their plans for redeveloping this site in downtown.
All right, let's start with Brian Chambers. Brian, you're at UC Berkeley.
Right.
Okay, and what was you all's plan?
It was really simple, really. We just wanted to make a beautiful place that people wanted to live. And
also residential.
Yeah, it's a lot of residential, and one of the ways that we thought to do that was proposing that Washington Street be this great new pedestrian street to make people enter kind of a gateway into downtown and all the neighborhoods around it, and flank that with a beautiful new public space in front of the Buffalo Bayou that would make this a place people want to call home.
Yeah, because it kind of feeds into, I know when I first came here in 1998, downtown was, Houston didn't go downtown for very much. You know, it was corporate buildings, they emptied out, but now it's a living space again, which is a movement that happened across the country of bringing people back to that centralized part of a city. So residential makes sense. Okay, very good, very good. All right, Zachary Crown is with Columbia University. And Zachary, what was your idea?
Well, our idea for this neighborhood is what we envisioned it to be is the post. What we've done is we've taken the existing post office building and we've converted it into a cultural center with a large public plaza behind it, hoping to have that be an anchor that not only connects to the adjacent historic and theater districts, but also acts as a place for civic and community events to occur within it. And on the other side, along the bayou, you can see that what we have is a new way to experience the bayou, a pool that actually floats in the bayou, and a park that runs alongside of it.
Yeah, that's really cool too, because again, that whole kind of green movement and recognizing, and then Houston for many years, we just didn't have any zoning at all.
Right.
And so now we're kind of like coming into sort of some master planning, if you will, by doing things like this. All right, Chad Murphy is with the University of Colorado, so give us an idea of what you guys think should happen.
I'm representing University of Colorado and Harvard University. We're a joint team, so I just wanted to mention that.
So you had a little extra help there.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we had to drag the Harvard guys in, you know how that is. Similar to Brian's plan, we are proposing a residential community as well. Our research found that there's only 3,000 residential units in downtown Houston, actually downtown. And that's a really small number when you look at how urban living is really taking hold in this country.
Yeah.
So,
and how we look at gas prices, and if you work downtown but live like it's someplace else, this could help.
yeah. So we again are also trying to do a very residential and very livable district in downtown for people that want to walk to work and want to live in a really urban setting.
Yeah, and the idea, if you build it, they will come.
Right.
All right. Reed Fillenbaum is with the University of Michigan. Hi, Reed.
That's right. Hi.
And what's your all's plan?
Our plan is similar in creating a vibrant neighborhood.
I'm glad that you understood my word y'all, since you're from Michigan.
I did, I know. It's a little confusing, but a vibrant neighborhood and right on the banks of the bayou. And so we're looking at creating a restaurant row connecting over top of the bayou that's kind of built off of a microbrewery right along the
microbrewery. College students, microbreweries, that fits in.
Exactly.
And Gerald, let me ask you, because you remember also when downtown was just really about business, but not about coming back home to a centralized location. Is this what you're seeing across the country and around the world, really? Because you do buildings around the world.
No, I think our cities must develop residential in the downtown areas. It must stay alive at night. That is the direction that will enable our cities to live and prosper. And so we've got to have that vitality, and it's taken a long time, but our downtown rail that operates on Main Street has helped tremendously in bringing people downtown.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, how many of you are familiar with the Houston area before this contest?
I'm from Houston.
You're from Houston?
Not familiar.
So give me an idea what you think. 'Cause I always hear people who, they say, Houston, and they really don't know how to define it. They don't really understand it. What did you get about Houston through this project?
We found that the cultural diversity and the food are the two most things that were amazing about Houston.
Yeah. All right, something you already knew. And did you find that when people would say, hey, where are you from on campus, you go Houston, that they had no idea what you're really talking about?
They really didn't. They really didn't. And I think the thing that they will soon know is the Buffalo Bayou.
Yeah.
And I think that's just really going to be the landmark of Houston.
Okay, well, best of luck to all of you. Gerald, I've got to say thank you so much for paying it forward and encouraging the next generation. But before you go, I have to ask you, what would your plans be for the Astrodome?
Wow. Well, that's a very complicated question. And I think it needs to be, that football needs to be thrown to these young men for maybe next year.
Nice try. That would be a good one for next year, right? Okay. Can I just give you guys a hint? Galleria 6 or something like that. All right. Thank you very much. Best of luck to you, and thank you as well. The students are presenting their full proposals in a public forum tomorrow at the Houston Ballet Center for Dance downtown, which is close to the post office site. You can find out more on our website, greatdayhouston.com.